What if I told you the most loyal women, the ones who swore they'd never cheat, are the easiest to betray their marriages? Not because they're weak, not because they're reckless, but because no one warned them about this psychological trap. You wake up one day and realize your marriage feels like a roommate agreement. The man who once looked at you like you hung the moon now barely sees you at all. Then he shows up, the coworker, the friend, the stranger who makes you feel alive again with just a glance, a joke, a text that lingers too long. And suddenly, you're not the woman you thought you were. This isn't about sex. It's about starvation. The slow ache of emotional neglect that rewires your brain until betrayal doesn't feel like betrayal, it feels like survival. So here's the uncomfortable truth. The happiest marriages don't just avoid temptation, they destroy its oxygen. But will you realize that before it's too late? The most dangerous threat to a marriage isn't some obvious villain. It's the slow, silent erosion of emotional connection that happens when two people stop truly seeing each other. Think about it. She didn't wake up one day and decide to risk everything. No, it starts with the little deaths. The conversations that used to last for hours now reduced to logistics. The touch that once ignited her skin now just an absent-minded habit. She tells herself it's normal, that this is just what happens after years together. But then comes the loneliness. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that hollows you out from the inside, whispering that you've become invisible in your own life. And that's when the outside world starts to look different. A compliment from a stranger lingers in her mind a little too long. A colleague's laugh makes her feel interesting in a way she hasn't in years. It's not that she's looking for an escape, she's looking for proof that she still exists. Because here's the brutal truth. Neglect doesn't just leave a void, it creates a hunger. And when someone, anyone, offers even a crumb of what she's been starving for, her heart doesn't stand a chance. This isn't about blame, it's about human nature. We are wired to seek connection, to crave being desired, to need more than just coexistence. So when the marriage becomes a checklist of responsibilities with no emotional oxygen, the heart starts gasping for air elsewhere. And by the time she realizes how far she's wandered, the line between blurred, because the first crack in a marriage isn't an affair. It's the moment she stops believing her husband still sees her. And once that belief shatters, the rest is just a matter of time. The human mind is a master storyteller, especially when it comes to justifying the slow slide toward a line we swore we'd never cross. It never starts with a dramatic confession or a conscious choice to betray. Oh, no, it begins in the quiet corners of rationalization where a woman tells herself it's just a harmless conversation. What's the problem? She doesn't see the danger yet because she's still in control, or so she thinks. But every step closer to temptation is paved with another small lie. It's not like I'd ever act on this. My marriage is fine. I'm just enjoying the attention. And bit by bit, the story she tells herself shifts until the unthinkable starts to feel inevitable. Here's the trap. The more she minimizes her actions, the easier it becomes to take the next step. A lingering glance becomes a secret smile. A casual coffee becomes a charged moment. And with each small compromise, the guilt fades a little more, because the mind can't bear the weight of cognitive dissonance for long. It has to rewrite the narrative to survive. If my husband made me feel this way, I wouldn't need this. It's not cheating if nothing physical happens. I deserve to feel wanted. The justifications get louder, the boundaries get blurrier, and before she realizes it, she's standing on the other side of a line she never meant to cross. But here's the truth she won't face until it's too late. The first betrayal isn't the physical act. It's the moment she starts keeping secrets. It's the split-second decision to delete a text, to hide a smile, to lock away a piece of her heart where her husband can't reach it. Because once secrecy takes root, the marriage is no longer a sanctuary, it's just a stage. And when the performance becomes more exhausting than the truth, the heart makes its choice without permission. By then, it's not about whether she'll fall. It's about how far. There comes a moment when the fantasy becomes more real than the marriage, when the rush of stolen glances and secret conversations rewires her sense of loyalty without her even realizing it. It's not a conscious choice, not some dramatic leap into betrayal. No, it's the slow, suffocating realization that the person who makes her feel alive, emotional affair has already done its damage, long before anything physical happens. She tells herself she's still in control, that she could walk away any time, but the truth is far more dangerous. She doesn't want to, because for the first time in years, she feels seen, wanted, needed, and that high is addictive. The marriage becomes a backdrop, a script she's rehearsed so many times that the lines no longer mean anything. Meanwhile, the affair thrives on unpredictability, on the thrill of discovery, on the way her pulse races when his name lights up her phone. She convinces herself this is different, special, that what she's found is something her marriage could never give her. But here's the cruel irony. It's not that her husband stopped loving her. It's that she stopped letting him in. The walls went up long before the affair started, brick by brick, built from resentment, loneliness, and the quiet despair of unmet needs. And then the point of no return. Not the first touch, not the first kiss, but the first time she lies to herself and believes it. The moment she trades the weight of guilt for the lightness of surrender. Because once the heart crosses over, the mind will always follow. The marriage may still exist on paper, but in her soul, it's already over. And by the time she admits it, the damage isn't just to her relationship, it's to the woman she swore she'd never become. The most dangerous affairs don't begin in hotel rooms. They begin in the mind, in those quiet spaces between thoughts, where longing takes root and grows thorns. She tells herself it's just friendship, just harmless banter, just someone who finally gets her. But the truth is far more treacherous. Emotional intimacy is the gateway drug to betrayal. When she shares pieces of her heart with someone new, her frustrations, her dreams, the parts of herself her husband stopped noticing, she's not just crossing a line, she's redrawing the entire map of her loyalty. And with every secret shared, every vulnerable moment given to someone else, she's dismantling her marriage brick by brick without ever touching a single stone. Here's what she doesn't realize. The physical act is almost incidental. The real violation happened weeks, months earlier, when she started measuring her husband's silence against another man's attention and found him wanting. When she began rationing her truth, keeping the best parts of herself for someone who still looked at her with hunger. The affair isn't the explosion. It's the slow burn of comparison, the acid drip of what if eroding her commitment. And by the time the line is crossed, the marriage is already collateral damage. Because when you feed a connection in the dark, it doesn't just grow, it consumes. Ask any woman who's been there. The guilt doesn't come from the sex. It comes from the moment she realizes she's been grieving her marriage long before it ended, that she mourned the loss of emotional safety long before she sought it elsewhere. And that's the cruelest twist of all. The affair wasn't the cause of the rupture, it was the symptom. The final desperate gasp of a heart that had been starving in plain sight. There's a moment of terrifying clarity when the fantasy collides with reality, when she realizes she's not just flirting with temptation anymore, but actively rewriting her life story to commoditate it. The texts that once felt thrilling now carry the weight of consequences. The stolen moments that used to inject excitement into her routine now demand lies that stain her conscience. She stands at the precipice, staring down at two versions of herself, the woman who honors her vows and the one who's already crossed over in her heart. And here's the brutal truth. By this point, the choice isn't really a choice anymore. The emotional scaffolding of her marriage has already been dismantled, replaced by a new narrative where her needs aren't just met, they're celebrated. This is where denial shatters. She can no longer pretend it's just friendship when her pulse races at the sound of his voice. can't claim it's harmless when she's rearranging her schedule to see him, editing her stories to protect him, lying to the person she vowed to cherish. The cognitive dissonance reaches a breaking point, and suddenly she's faced with an impossible calculus: the cost of staying versus the cost of leaving. Both paths are paved with loss. Both demand sacrifice. But one offers the cruel comfort of familiarity, the other the terrifying allure of a life where she feels wanted again. Here's what they never warn you about affairs. The hardest part isn't the betrayal, it's the grief. Grief for the woman she thought she was, for the marriage she believed was unshakable, for the future she's now burning to the ground. Because when she finally admits the truth to herself, it's already too late. The point of no return isn't a line she crosses, it's a mirror she can't unsee. And the reflection staring back isn't a villain, just a human who got lost in the quiet apocalypse of neglect and forgot her way home. So where do we go from here? If there's one truth to take away, it's this: affairs don't start in the arms of another person. They start in the silent gaps of a marriage where connection used to live. The real enemy isn't temptation, it's complacency. The belief that love can run on autopilot, that commitment doesn't require daily nurturing, that the person who chose you will always feel chosen. But here's the wake-up call. Emotional neglect is the slowest form of self-sabotage. And if you're waiting for a crisis to force your attention back to your marriage, you're already playing with fire. So let this be your turning point. Today, right now, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly saw your partner, not as a co-parent, a roommate, a fixture in your life, but as the person who once held your entire heart in their hands? Reigniting a marriage doesn't take grand gestures. It takes presence. A 5-minute conversation that isn't about bills or chores. A touch that lingers. A choice to fight for the us instead of drifting into me. Because the best defense against temptation isn't willpower, it's a love so alive there's no room for what-ifs. Don't wait until you're standing at the edge of the line to wonder how you got there. Close the distance now, before the world does it for you.